Evolution Power Tools contacted me recently and asked me if I would be interested in reviewing a new product. This is a product they were talking about. It's a brand new product and it's a new line for Evolution. It's a shop vac. It's the R15VAC. The vacuum was being designed as a bagless system. It's got a 15 litre tank at the bottom, used for wet and dry applications. A 9 litre wet capacity and an 8 litre dry capacity, which is quite adequate for most people's needs. 1000 watt motor. It has a 1700 watt power takeoff, which means that you can plug your equipment into this socket here. When you start the tool, the vacuum will start. When you stop the tool, the vacuum will stop. It comes with a 3 metre cable. Just a quick look at the packaging. Remember, you can pause the video if you want to read any of the details on the box. Inside the box we've got the vacuum, a foam filter for wet applications, a set of instructions, the suction hose, and then if I spin the vacuum round, you can see that clipped onto the side there we've got the 2 extension tubes. If we open this accessory storage space at the front of the machine, the crevice tool, and this is called the gulper nozzle, which is basically for wet applications as well. And inside the vacuum you can see we've got the cartridge filter, which is for dry applications, and this is how it's secured to the vacuum. So if we take a look at this vacuum, it is really well put together. It weighs just over 5 kilograms. It's not heavy. It's actually designed to be carried about using this handle, which I think is a nice feature. There is the on and off button. It's got 2 positions. Position 1, which is just basically turning the vacuum on and off, or position 2, which actually uses the power takeoff. This is where the hose clips in. And one thing that I like about this is there is a positive location on this, and there's a clip that stops it from being pulled out. This is a feature which allows you to use a vacuum as a blower, and I'll demonstrate all of this in a minute. The clips that hold the tank in place are actually really well made. I love the design. They actually clamp properly. Very easy to open and take the top off the tank. It's just well put together. I like the way it's designed. The cable is 3 meters long. The hose is 2 meters long. Because this machine is designed as a bagless machine, this filter is actually washable. So when you've been using the vacuum for a while, if it starts getting clogged up, you can actually wash this filter, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit later on in the video. The foam filter is used for wet applications. So the first thing I'm going to demonstrate with this vacuum is using the power takeoff. I've got a 350 watt random orbit sander plugged in there. So when I start this, it should start the vacuum. And then it turns itself off automatically, which is a very handy feature. So let's give it a little bit of a sand and we'll see how well it copes. I would say that coped very, very well with that. There was very little, if any, dust produced while the vacuum was on and the hose was connected. And if we look inside, we can see it's collected a fair amount of that dust. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no issue with that at all. I'm very pleased with that. So we'll see what it's like just for general vacuuming operations. I'll put the crevice nozzle on there. I do like that storage compartment. Position 1 for this so that it turns the hoover on directly. Yeah, it's got plenty of suction. I've connected the shop vac to my spindle sander, and now I'm going to demonstrate what this is like with and without the shop vac on. Now I'm going to start off with the vacuum. without the vacuum. Turn the vacuum on. Turn it off. There is absolutely no doubt that it makes a major difference on something like a belt sander if you've got a decent shop vac connected to it. So that is going to save your lungs an awful lot of aggro. But there was a definite difference between with and without. Most of that has ended up in here. So it's far better in there than in the air. So to clean the filter, just run water from the inside out. Now you can see that is waterproof. You can see the water's just running off that, so you could use this for small wet jobs, I suppose. That's the filter cleaned. Very simple. Once you've washed the filter, put it somewhere to dry and just make sure that it's dry before you put it back onto the vacuum. So I'm going to start the vacuum. That is what prevents it from sucking water up into the motor and ruining the vacuum. So to use this as a wet vac, remove the cartridge filter and then put this foam filter on, and it just slides over the cage there. It's quite simple to do, and that should be looked upon as a kind of demister pad. It stops the water from getting up inside the motor. Make sure that you empty the dust out of the tank, put the vacuum back together again, and now it's ready for wet operation. And let's just say we've had a spill. Now, it doesn't really come much better than that, does it? It's virtually dry. What I'm going to do now is demonstrate how the vacuum turns itself off when this tank gets full. So I'm just going to get rid of this water. And this gives you an idea of the sort of things that you can do with these vacs. They are very versatile. Using suction is often a brilliant way of clearing blockages. Right, so that is the tank now full. And it won't be full to the top, it's only filled it up enough for the ball to stop the suction. So that's how much liquid the tank will hold before it actually stops the vacuum. So connecting the suction hose to this port underneath the accessory storage area turns it from a vacuum into a blower, and that is a very useful facility that this machine has got. Very handy feature, and it's really good for clearing away areas of dust that you cannot vacuum. You can just blow them out of the way. It does spread dust around your workshop, but sometimes it's far better than vacuuming, and it's much quicker than using a compressor. You can also use this for drying things and for blowing yourself off if you've been doing particularly dusty work and your missus tells you that she don't want you walking around the house covered in dust. So another very handy feature that this vacuum has got. Hopefully I've managed to give you a good idea of how this shop vac performs. Now, personally, I'm impressed with it. It's got oodles of suction power, which is exactly what you need with a shop vac. The most important thing, I would say, you've got everything clipped on it and in this tool compartment, so it's just a case of picking up the shop vac and going to the work site. Now that, I think, is really handy. I do think that Evolution should maybe provide a vacuum head like this for larger areas. And you can actually use a smaller head for doing that, but this would be much better. saying that it's not a major disadvantage. The fact that this is portable, as I've said, is really handy. I've been saying to Evolution for a long time that they should introduce a shop vac into their catalogue, and I'm really glad that they have done. I think it's a smashing piece of equipment. I love the way it's made. It's very well built, and I think it is a fine addition to my workshop. I'm really glad they've asked me to review it. I hope you found this review useful, and thank you for watching.